Eat like you care. There is no moral distinction between meat and other animal products. Some of you are probably thinking that you agree with us on the meat issue. You are or lean towards being a vegetarian, but you ask, what's wrong with dairy? Milk, cheese, ice cream, yogurt, etc., or even eggs. They don't kill the animals for those products. The short reply, that's a common misconception, but a misconception it is. Animals used for dairy and eggs do suffer, and they are all slaughtered just as those animals used only for meat are slaughtered. Most animals used for dairy and eggs are like animals used exclusively for meat, kept in the intensive confinement and otherwise horrendous conditions of factory farms. The nation's modern dairy industry utilizes primarily dry lot dairies. These facilities are similar to beef feedlots, where cows used for meat are fattened and dairy cows are kept standing or lying in their own manure in unsanitary holding pens. Contrary to popular belief, cows don't produce milk automatically and consider it a big favor that we milk them. They must be pregnant first. They are artificially and forcibly impregnated every year so that they are continually lactating. If we drink cow's milk, then the babies for whom it is intended aren't drinking it. Newborn calves are taken away from their mothers shortly, sometimes immediately and often after, at most, 1 or 2 days after birth. And no one seriously disputes that this causes distress to mother and baby alike. Many of the female calves will become dairy cows. They are fed formula so that they don't take the milk. The rest of the females and all the males will become meat animals, with some being raised in confined crate conditions and slaughtered after about 6 months to be sold as veal. All cows, whether raised for meat or milk, will end up in the slaughterhouse. Dairy cows who can live for 25 years are usually slaughtered after 4 or 5 years when productivity starts to wane. As a result of current dairy farming methods, diet housing, dairy cows suffer from lameness, mastitis, which is a painful inflammation of the udder, reproductive problems, and severe viral and bacterial diarrhea. They are often given drugs to cause them to produce more milk. All dairy cattle end their lives in the same miserable slaughterhouses as do cattle used for meat, and many dairy cattle are too sick to even walk to slaughter and are therefore dragged. Moreover, dairy cattle are mutilated. Their horns are removed and tails are docked or cut off without pain management. Tail docking is a regular practice. As for the egg industry, after hatching, the chicks are separated into males and females. Because male chicks will not be able to produce eggs, and because laying chickens are a specific laying breed, they are not suitable to be meat animals. More than 100 million male chicks are killed in the United States alone every year by being thrown alive into grinding machines, suffocated in garbage bags, or gassed. And I will also add they're also drowned in some farms. Laying hens are confined in tiny battery cages where they get on average 67 square inches of space, or about the size of a single sheet of letter-sized paper, to live their entire lives. Most laying hens are subjected to forced molting, where the birds are starved for a period, causing them to lose their feathers and forcing their reproductive processes to rejuvenate, and to debeaking to stop the birds from injuring each other. Those hens who are not confined in battery cages are raised in quote-unquote cage-free or free-range circumstances that still result in horrible suffering. I would like to add that you can see these videos of the quote-unquote cage-free and free-range conditions, and they are appalling. Laying hens are all slaughtered once their egg producing capacities decrease, usually after 1 or 2 laying cycles. So if all you eat are eggs, you are still directly responsible for the suffering and death of many chickens. The bottom line, there is as much suffering in a glass of milk or in an egg as in a steak. This chapter doesn't really even go into the depths and detail of the atrocities that happen because of milk and eggs. And I strongly suggest that you watch some videos or documentation on the internet, on YouTube, documentaries that I will suggest in the description below that actually shows what is going on in these factory farms with dairy and eggs. Because the misconception that the animals don't suffer is extremely inaccurate. Dairy and eggs actually cause more baby animals to be killed than any other industry. The baby chicks that are just a few days old are, like the chapter says, ground up alive or suffocated to death or drowned. And the baby cows are served as veal because they have no use for the baby cows, and therefore they want to make a profit off of them. And so they sell them to you as veal. So it is a horrible, horrible thing to eat veal. Watch the documentary Dominion, and that'll give you tremendous insight on what actually goes on in the food that you consume. People cannot remain blind and ignorant to what's really going on, because it's literally a matter of life and death of not only ourselves, but also the life and death of our planet and the lives of these innocent animals. If you can't torture and kill an animal with your bare hands, then you should not be paying someone else to torture and kill an animal for you. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. And people need to see what's actually happening. And if you can't bear to see it, then you shouldn't be consuming it. To hear the next chapter, please go to my next video on my YouTube page. Please like and subscribe.